A man is trapped on an island alone with no mobile phone and food. Slowly he gets used to his lonely life, grows his own food and tackles a lot of obstacles to live a happy life. He also inspires an introverted girl to explore the world and interact with people. Hi, welcome to Anonymous Recaps. In this video, we will be taking a look at one of the most famous movies of 2009. Castaway on the Moon. The movie has an IMDb rating of around 8.0 and is widely praised by the viewers. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next awesome movie recaps. The movie opens up in Seoul with the main character, Kim Seong-joon, standing on the edge of the Han River. Kim is having a terrible life as his girlfriend recently broke up with him. He has lost his job and has a huge amount of debt under his name. Fed up with all these problems, Kim decides to end his life and jumps off the bridge into the river. Sadly, he doesn't die and ends up at the shore of the river, near the city. He tries to boot up his cell phone but it stops working as the water went inside it. He then opens the battery and leaves it to dry in the sun. Kim thinks that he has failed to die and looks at a top building opposite him. He searches for a way out of the place and runs into the forest. To his bad luck, he ends up in the same place he started. Actually, he has been trapped on a small island, in the middle of the river. With no way out, Kim decides to sleep there, covering himself with newspapers. The next day, Kim wakes up to the sound of a large ship passing by. He waves his hand and asks for help, but only one of the passengers notices him and sails away by waving him back. Frustrated, Kim collects his cell phone and turns it on. With barely any battery left, he tries to connect with his ex-girlfriend, but she hangs up, telling him that the relationship between them is already over. Kim also calls an emergency number for help, but sadly, they do not believe in him and cut the call short. Desperate to return, Kim attempts to swim across the river but fails miserably. While swimming, he remembers his father yelling at him for being good at nothing, his girlfriend breaking up with him, and his terrible job interviews. All these memories make him realize that there is no point in returning back to his normal life. Kim then returns to the shore and decides to stay there. At night, Kim lights a fire near him to keep himself warm and starts yelling at the people in the city, thinking that nobody can see him or hear him. The following morning, Kim wakes up and starts collecting some reusable items around the shore of the river. He finds a bottle of detergent, some steel bottles, and a duck-shaped boat. He pulls the duck-shaped boat to an open place and uses it as his home. Kim becomes very happy to find the boat and call it his own because he has never been able to own a house in the city. Following this, he tries to find something to eat and fails every time. He attempts to catch a duck, steals some birds' eggs, and catch a fish but gets denied. He is then compelled to eat an unknown mushroom that he found in the forest. On the other hand, there is another character in the movie named Kim Jung-yeon, a girl who lives in one of the riverfront apartments with her family. Jung-yeon narrates her life by mentioning that she hasn't left her room in years and is similar to a castaway with messy hair and the same worn-out outfits. One day, after she completes her work, Jung-yeon looks through her camera and notices a man trying to hang himself in the nearby forest. Surprisingly, the man is none other than Kim. Jung-yeon is shocked to see this and she immediately rushes to her bed to sleep. At night, when Jung-yeon approaches her camera to take pictures of the moon, she is relieved to see the man alive. From that day, Jung-yeon starts to observe Kim and his activities, passing her time away from her hectic internet life. The next day, when a ship passes by the river, Kim runs towards the forest to hide, rather than asking for help. While hiding, he finds a packet of black bean noodles but with only the soup packet inside. Seeing this, he develops a great desire to have the noodles and remembers the times he rejected them without a reason. He tries to make the same noodles with all of the ingredients he found in the forest, but sadly, when he adds water to the mixture it changes to mud and does not take a shape. Hopeless, Kim tries to sleep but is frequently disturbed by the birds, relieving themselves on the top of his duck house. Witnessing bird poop all over his roof, He gets the idea of planting the bird poops, as it contains seeds that the birds cannot digest. With the hope of growing plants and making black bean noodles for himself, Kim starts plowing the field and puts bird poop inside it. He decides to use his own waste as manure for plants and builds a mannequin out of his clothes to keep the birds away from destroying his small vegetation. During all this hard work, Kim sweats a lot and is surprised when he licks his own sweat. Kim is doing so because he has not been able to consume salt for months and is intrigued when he licks his sweat. On the other hand, Jung-yeon is watching Kim do all this and clicking his pictures. 2 months later, Jung-yeon is still watching Kim and now has a lot of his pictures hanging on her wall. By this time, Kim has become more mature and is really enjoying his life, away from the city. Impressed by his life, Jung-yeon wishes to contact him and leaves her room to send a message to Kim. She hides the paper inside the bottle and throws it from the edge of the river toward Kim. The next morning, Kim wakes up from his sleep and finds the bottle on top of a tree. Kim, however, manages to get the bottle and reads the message, "Hello." At this moment he realizes that someone is keeping an eye on him. He then immediately runs to the shore and writes, "How are you?" in the sand. Jung-yeon also notices this and sends him her reply inside another bottle. Next, Kim finds the bottle quicker this time and becomes very happy to get a reply stating "Fine, thank you." Observing Kim for a long time, Jung-yeon realizes that he is doing all this for black bean noodles and sends a delivery boy to deliver some black bean noodles to Kim. Kim, however, refuses to accept it and tells the delivery boy that the noodles are the hope for him to continue living. Because of this, the delivery boy returns back to Jung-yeon and hands over her order. Jung-yeon enjoys the meal, with tear-filled eyes. Surprising her mother, Jung-yeon steps out of her room and asks her mother to bring her some pots as she wants to plant some seeds. Few months pass by and by this time, Kim has successfully grown all the ingredients required to make the noodles. He gathers the ingredients and starts making the noodles. After a bit of struggle, he successfully makes the black beans noodles and pours the same soup he found in the forest earlier. With teary eyes he enjoys the noodles and is very happy with himself. Jung-yeon, on the other hand, is looking at all this through her camera and is clicking pictures of the moment. The next letter Kim receives states "Congratulations." He then develops an urgent desire to meet the person who is sending him messages and writes, "Who are you?" on the sand. Jung-yeon immediately panics after seeing this and decides to print a random girl's picture from the internet and send it to Kim. However, when she tries to throw the bottle, she stops and returns home. She tries to divert her attention away from Kim and goes back to her daily routine, but sadly receives filthy messages through the internet and becomes sad. At night, it rains heavily, destroying Kim's vegetation and taking away his duck boat house. The following day, Jung-yeon wakes up and observes Kim through her camera. She notices a sad Kim, sitting beside his decimated shore house. Suddenly, a couple of civil service officers appear in front of Kim and ask him to leave the place. Kim tries to run away from them but ends up getting caught by more civil officers. The civil officers are actually there to clean the shore after a strong wind. When Kim does not comply to leave, one of the officers knocks Kim down, puts him on a boat, and leaves him at a bus station. Jung-yeon, who is looking at all this, gets sudden courage and steps out of her room in years. She runs randomly in the streets in search of Kim and luckily, arrives at the same bus station. Sadly, when she arrives there, Kim gets on the bus and leaves for the 63 stories building to make another suicide attempt. Seeing the bus leave, Jung-yeon believes that they can never meet each other. Fortunately, some civil service officers blow a whistle and begin their work, stopping all of the vehicles on the road. Jung-yeon then runs towards the bus Kim boarded and steps inside, noticing Kim sitting on a seat. She looks at him and introduces herself. Kim also realizes that she is the same girl who sent her the messages and keeps on gazing at her with teary eyes. The bus suddenly starts, making Jung-yeon afraid and compelling her to hold hands with Kim. The movie ends with the two looking at each other and smiling. Movie ends with